German finance minister tells the BBC that not only does he want the UK to stay in the EU, but that this will make Europe stronger. And reforming the IMF, the International Monetary Fund faces calls that it should break free from the US, its largest shareholder. Hello there, a very warm welcome to you. This is World Business Report with me, Alice Baxter. Now, in just a minute, we'll find out why the stock exchanges in Hong Kong and Shanghai want to exchange customers. But first this hour, in a rare interview with the German finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, seen here with Chancellor Angela Merkel, well, he told the BBC's Tanya Beckett that not only does he want the UK to stay in the EU, but that this will make Europe stronger. He also said that the problems of the so-called benefit tourism can be resolved in Europe, but insists that the principle of free movement of labour within the EU needs to stay.
We need the UK in the EU, of course. I can't imagine the EU without UK and without a leading role of UK, because UK is indispensable for Europe. But on the other side, of course, we have to respect the debate in UK, and therefore we have to respect and to accept any British decision, of course. But we strongly hope that UK will decide to stay in the EU. And once again, we need even a stronger role of UK in the EU.
In the UK, migrants from within the EU are no longer being offered all of the welfare that people who are British and are within Britain are being offered. So is there a parallel debate within Germany? What do you think about these restrictions?
We have to defend the freedom of movement for all people who want to work in Europe, because it's a huge achievement, and we need it, because on behalf of our demography we need the immigration of workers and people who are ready to work. But you can do it if we make European law in the way that it's clear you have the freedom to work, but you can't ask for social assistance in the member state you want to choose. That is the responsibility if you have no work. If you need social assistance, that's the responsibility is to your home state.
And we'll give you more for that interview with Wolfgang Schäuble, including his views on the Eurozone's road to recovery throughout the day here on World Business Report. Now, plans to reform the IMF have stalled because of a divided US Congress. There are signs that the group of 20 leading economies are actually ready to leave the US behind. They're set to discuss the issue this Friday on the sidelines of the IMF and World Bank spring meeting. Michelle Fleury reports now from Washington.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
Christine Lagarde, the head of the International Monetary Fund, here with her new friend, Joe Hockey. This year's chairman of the G20 leading economies expressed the group's frustration that IMF reforms agreed in 2010 were being blocked by the American Congress.
The failure to finalise this issue diminishes America's global standing instead of enhancing it. As a close friend of the United States, we will always call it as we see it from Australia. And in relation to the reforms of the IMF, this impasse in the United States is letting everyone down.
Some say the IMF should consider breaking free from the US, its largest shareholder, a suggestion Christine Lagarde greeted with caution at the start of the fund's spring meeting.
And I don't think that our institution should move to Plan B until we have full certainty and massive disappointment that Plan A is definitely dead. I'm not prepared to declare that at this point.
Inside here, they support reforms that would increase the voting power of emerging markets and boost the resources of the IMF. But the Obama administration hasn't done enough to persuade Republicans in the House of Representatives.
They've got problems with the idea that if the IMF makes very large loans, there's a lot more risk to the United States taxpayer than there was before, because now the IMF is lending on a scale that has never lent before.
The sense of shared responsibility that led America to create the IMF at the end of World War II is wearing away. Few politicians in Washington seem troubled by America's failure to live up to its promises. But it's not just the IMF that stands to lose. Next time America wants support for some of its priorities, it may find it's not there. Michelle Fleury, BBC News, Washington.
Now, China has unveiled a plan on Thursday to give foreign investors greater access to its stock market by allowing investors in Shanghai and Hong Kong to trade shares on each other's exchanges. Well, Sharon Chitlel is in our Asia Business Hub for us in Singapore. Sharon, just explain what's going on here.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's essentially being called something of a breakthrough. This, according to the chairman of the Hong Kong Exchange. What is this? It's essentially a crucial reform to try to open up China's capital markets. China, of course, wants to boost stock market ties with Hong Kong. And these measures essentially allow cross-border stock investments between Hong Kong and Shanghai. And it will allow mainland investors as well to trade shares in designated Hong Kong-listed firms. At the same time, Hong Kong investors will be allowed to buy shares in companies listed in Shanghai. Now, this is a pilot project. It's going to launch after a preparation period of about 6 months. And during that trial period, Hong Kong investment in Chinese stocks will be limited to a daily quota of about $2 billion worth. Mainland investment in Hong Kong stocks will be limited to a daily quota of just slightly less than that. The pilot scheme will also limit trading to companies already dual listed in Shanghai and Hong Kong, as well as other selected blue chip companies. But there are some challenges to all of this, though, because of course we know that China's stocks have been undervalued for a number of years, and this may not appeal to outside investors, though one analyst I spoke to says letting Hong Kong investors go in there, putting their money into these Chinese stocks may actually help boost those valuations. So that is one upside to this tie-up. It was also announced hours after China's Premier Li Keqiang said China would actively try to create conditions to push forward the two-way opening up of its capital markets in mainland China and Hong Kong. Now, he said he made those comments at the Bao Forum for Asia in China's southern island of Hainan, which is currently going on. All of this also ties in with some of the other reforms that China's made. For instance, they've loosened their grip on the Chinese currency, the yuan, as well. They're trying to open up they're trying to help the internationalization of the Chinese currency. So part of this is it's a whole slew of reforms that are trying to open up Chinese capital markets.
Yeah, so lots of news coming out of China today. Sharon Jit, for now, many thanks. Sharon Chitlel there for us live in Singapore. Let's bring you a little bit of other news now, and we stay in China for a moment. And fresh data that shows consumer prices on the mainland rose 2.4% in March from a year earlier, much in line with analyst expectations for a rise of 2.5% for the month. Producer prices also moved in line with expectations, falling for the month of March from a year earlier by 2.3%. General Motors has put 2 engineers on paid leave over the automaker's deadly ignition switch recall. The company also revealed that costs from the scandal could soar to $1.3 billion. GM Chief Executive Mary Barra announced the first disciplinary personnel action stemming from the company's internal probe of the circumstances leading to that delayed recall of 2.6 million older model cars. Activist investor Carl Icahn has dropped his call for eBay to sell its payments business, PayPal. The billionaire had been trying to gather support for the proposed split before the e-commerce giant's annual shareholder meeting in May. But Mr. Icahn, who first made the call in January, said it had become clear that several major shareholders would not back the plan. Quickly to see how markets are getting on for the moment over in Asia. And there we can see mostly down across the board, and Japanese shares in particular have sunk to a 6-month low on Friday as an escalating sell-off on Wall Street spread to Asia and slugged markets that had been fairly resilient up until now. But that is the view across the region. From me and the team, bye for this hour.